Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Chris, and you are in the Action Lab. Real quick, it is Wednesday. By the way, if you're in chat, we've been having audio issues the last couple weeks, so just make sure that if you are having trouble hearing us, or you need us to speak up, or you can't hear Scotty for whatever reason, or myself, just feel free to throw that in the chat so we know to make some adjustments. But we are on your Wednesday edition of the Action Lab here on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Scotty, we had a huge game last night. We have a champion in the NBA, and we have a lot more to talk about on top of that. So, I mean,
are we sure? Did they win?
They won. Sure? They won. The Bucks closed it out.
Bucks closed it out last night.
Man.
With Giannis just doing his best, like, Steph Curry impersonation from the free throw line, but we'll get into that.
We're going to get into all the ins and outs of this game that last night. It was an instant classic, and we definitely are going to talk a lot about. There's so many like juicy tidbits and angles to like approach this with. I mean, we actually have, oh man, I was looking at all the Twitterverse last night and kind of going over all of the crazy things that people were tweeting out, and whether they were stats, whether they were something, I mean, you name it. This game brought out a lot of different angles when it comes to the NBA, where it's going, who's the best, where this is, what this means for Giannis, and we're going to cover all of it. So we're going to dive into a lot of those tweets, a lot of those themes and takeaways. I mean, we're at the end of the NBA season, guys, and you know what? It's been a fun season, been an interesting season, but I will say that, Scotty, I think you might be frozen a little bit. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I do look frozen.
You look pissed.
That's just an exercise I'm doing where I'm not moving. I'm talking without moving my mouth, and I look angry. So
You look angry that you have to chug a beer on stream tonight, I think is what
I
it comes down
I
to.
do have to chug, and I'm gonna have to check like what beer I have because I don't know if I have like any light beer, so I might just be straight chugging like a IPA or something.
Let me get you back here. Give me 1 second, peeps, and we'll get Scotty back in here on the Action Lab. Let's see. All right.
Do I always look that angry?
Oh yeah, yeah. You always look that angry. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see. We're gonna just get you back here. I'm gonna bring you back. Give me a second here. All righty. Bear with us, guys. We are all good. We're back. Scotty, you don't look as angry.
I don't.
No, you're good. You're good. So,
The whole time.
so here's what we're going to do. We're going to dive in. We have a ton of top stories to get to here on a Wednesday. We always like to take you across the world, across the United States, wherever it is necessary, and we'll be doing that tonight. So we want to make sure you're caught up on all the major big things that are going on in the world of soccer, football, basketball, baseball, but we are at the end of NBA season, which makes me sad. However, we have the NBA draft right here to pick us up next week. So we are going to love, and are we doing a draft special, Scotty? Are we going to be throwing a little bit of that out there?
I think that was the plan, right?
Yeah, I think that's the plan from my understanding too, because we did it for the NFL draft. We had a lot of fun with it, and we'll cover the first round of the NBA draft, and hopefully get you all the information you need to know. Maybe we'll do a little preview on Wednesday and tackle it. Try to get you guys all the info because it's going to be a big draft. This is one of the bigger drafts we've had in a while.
It feels weird that it's like a week after the season's ended. It's not normally like that, but
No.
There's a little more distance usually, at least in between. But I kind of, and we can talk about this when we dive into the basketball later. But I kind of like. I'm frozen again, aren't I?
Nope.
That's neat.
No, you're good.
Oh, just
No.
on my screen, I'm frozen. I kind of like actually how late this season went, where like there's not so much void before. Now we have like training camp about to kick off for NFL. We're gonna get college football rolling here soon, so there's not just that long gap where, no offense to baseball, I do love baseball, but it's just baseball.
Yeah. No. We got a lot going on here. Just because the NBA season, NHL season is over doesn't mean we don't have a lot to talk about across the board. So let's dive in. We have some big stories to touch on. Let's just jump into our news rundown. Now, we want to start out with a story that's obviously on the forefront of most people's minds when it comes to the NFL and most Denver fans most of the time, because they're looking for when's Aaron Rodgers going to come here, right? Because he's obviously not super thrilled about his situation over in Green Bay. But this past week, we had a little Adam Schefter, ESPN tweet saying some interesting information about the Green Bay Packers, what they've offered the MVP, and as far as an extension goes, and what that means. And so Aaron Rodgers this week, well, actually, I don't even know if it was this week. It might have been earlier. It might have been a while.
I think it was like a month ago.
It was a while back. Offered that 2-year extension to make the Packers quarterback the highest paid quarterback and player in the NFL. So obviously the Packers want him to stick around. They are throwing money bags at him, trying to keep him to stay. And he said no. He declined this. He decided he didn't want to stay based off of money. So you might have seen going through the Twitterverse, YouTube world, Stephen A. Smith came out and released his nice little long video regarding this situation, and he pretty much emphasized, like, this isn't about money. This is about respect. This is about respecting a player. And you didn't do your job, Green Bay Packers management. You decided that you wanted to, prioritize other things, other players, and you didn't want to treat him like the all-star that and MVP caliber player that he is. So Stephen A just kind of went on a rant. It's not about money. It's not about anything else. It's about respect. So then, as of, I think, what was it, yesterday, there was a tweet out retweeting that video by his significant other without any context. Just tweeted out the video, which pretty much just says, hey, Stephen A got it right on point. This is how we're feeling. This is what the situation is. So, with that being said, Aaron Rodgers does not, I mean, the fact that he turned down one of the biggest paydays in the NFL, that just shows you where he's at in this situation. Scotty, what are your thoughts when it comes to Aaron Rodgers turning this down, and where do you think this leads for the Packers and for Aaron Rodgers?
To me, this isn't that big of a surprise. Like, I felt like it was, in my mind, it was common knowledge. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about any of that. He's just unhappy. He's still a little, I'll use the word butthurt over them drafting a quarterback, moving up in the first round last year to get a quarterback in Jordan Love. And I think that's got to be where it all stems from, because otherwise, respect and not having guys around him. I'm sorry, does Aaron Rodgers have like the best left tackle in the game and one of the best offensive lines in the game? Does Aaron Rodgers have Devontae Adams, who's a top probably 3 wide receiver in the NFL? Does Aaron Rodgers have Aaron Jones, who's certainly like a top 10 running back in the NFL? So this whole idea that like, oh, they just don't surround him with anybody, in my mind, is ridiculous. And quite frankly, like, I still hold the same thing. It's like, all right, Aaron, let's play a game of chicken. Like, what are you gonna do at the age that you are if we don't trade you? Are you just gonna sit out, lose that money, lose another year of your career, and do nothing? Like, maybe he will, but he doesn't have leverage here. If I'm Green Bay, I just hold firm. Like, all right, he's upset, but he either needs to get over it. Like, is he really not going to show up? Like, you know, are they going to get really good value at this point in July? Like, not even 2 months prior to the season, a team trading for him? They're not going to get great value for him at this point. I just don't see any reason why they should trade him. So he either has to buck up. Buck up. I didn't even do that on purpose.
Yeah.
He is a minority owner in the Bucks, for anyone who doesn't know. Either has to buck up or like he can sit out. And I'm over him being a crybaby. Like, look at it this way. All right, you're upset that they drafted a quarterback in the first round. You know who else drafted a quarterback early, or basically had a quarterback, you know, that kind of threatened him, was Tom Brady. A little bit with Jimmy, and like he just kept playing. Like, you draft guys, like, I know it wasn't quite obviously Jimmy was nowhere near a first rounder, but you just got to keep playing. Like, stop being a baby. You made an NFC championship game last year, so it's not like this team isn't built to be a contender. Like, they had home field advantage. They were number 1 seed in the NFC, and they were very, very close, and quite frankly played pretty poorly in that, especially on offense, actually, for a lot of it in that NFC championship game. Their defense didn't play great either, but at least the defense created a bunch of turnovers. So quit being a baby. And once again, I'm probably biased because I don't necessarily want him on the Broncos. But if I'm Green Bay, I'm like, screw you, dude. Like, oh yeah, you have Robert Tonyan, third in yards and from tight ends last year. Like, there are pieces there. It's not he's like just surrounded with garbage. So, man, stop already. Just shut up and play.
And despite all of his stances that he's taken with his grievance with management, the Packers have remained adamant that they're not planning to trade him. So that continues to be, they're standing by that. And it seems like if he's going to sit out a year, he'll sit out a year. From all indications, that's kind of the worst case scenario for him. But I mean, could be a best case scenario. He could spend time on the beach and jumping off cliffs and whatever he wants to do. Sure. You know, whatever. He failed to show up for voluntary OTAs for the first time in his career. Training camp is scheduled to begin on July 28th. So he's obviously made it known that general manager Brian Gutekunst, failed to give him notice before that Love draft, as you mentioned, the Jordan Love pick. But it was funny, though. He is a part owner in the Bucks, so obviously he was all about that win last night. He tweeted out, "Incredible job by Wes and Mark, Peter, John, Horst. Our GM made some incredible moves, and our stars played like stars. Can't stop number 34, #champs." So, in reality, that's just a quick little shot at the, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, that's a quick shot over at the Green Bay management. Scott,
Yeah, for sure.
You keep freezing on me, I think.
I don't do it on purpose. I promise I'm moving. I'm actually doing some like jumping jacks for right now as we speak, so it's weird.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Here, let's get you back. Hold on. Let's see. Bear with us, guys. We're having a little technical difficulties.
I've also read that the Packers don't. Oh, like they might just put their foot in the ground and be like, hey, you either show up and play or you're not playing this season. Up to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting situation moving forward.
If he does show up to play at some point, I mean, the cohesion there, like, are they going to be good enough to be a contender with all this drama surrounding it? Like, I have to imagine some of the players are upset about how Rodgers is kind of throwing them under the bus, being like, I haven't been supported enough and I haven't had enough talent put around me to win. Like,
that's a good point, though, right? Because how are you feeling if you're a teammate of Aaron Rodgers and what he's trying to? I mean, you've got to be torn a little bit, right? He's the best quarterback, so you need him on your team. So you want to you're walking on eggshells, trying to make sure that you don't say the wrong thing. But at the same time, you're like pissed because, hey, what about us? Like we're on your team. We're your teammates. We're here. We're battling through. We're getting ready for the season. Like it's just one of those things. So. It's going to be that even with Green Bay, you know how awkward it's going to be when he comes back, if he comes back to Green Bay?
I mean, of course, all the players, when asked, will say, oh, no, it's just like it's always been, like our relationship's fine. But that's not going to be the case. It just can't be the case. Like, he's basically sold out that he doesn't want to be a part of this team. And the NFL, more than any other sport, has to be like closely bonded team. Like you can't have division in the locker room, or that the team can just quickly fall apart. So
crazy,
I don't know.
Crazy
it's a mess.
situation.
I definitely like the word saga because it feels like this is literally episode 7 of the 8, 9.
Oh,
we're in like the Star Wars saga, and it's like episode 9.
We're far from the end here. Saga. In a galaxy far, far away, and in a time frame 2 years from now, we might figure something out. But until then, we got some more news for you, and that is the U.S. women's soccer team ends up laying an egg. A little bit of a surprise here. Now, it's not a surprise when it comes to their opponent. Sweden is definitely one of the better teams out there when it comes to the women's soccer landscape. So women's national team opening match of the Olympic campaign, and they end up losing 3-0 to Sweden. Looking confused. I mean, group play was just, really, we were really excited to start seeing some really good women's soccer because honestly, that's the best soccer we have in the United States at the current juncture, right? Men's is on its way up, but women have had more success. So it was kind of notable when I looked at this and I woke up the next morning because typically I know these games are taking place, but I didn't really think much of it because obviously it's the opening round and you don't really have too much concern. And I was actually pretty shocked when I woke up and saw this result because it's not something you expect to see from this team. Now, to say the reigning Women's World Cup champions arrived in Japan as a favorite is perhaps an understatement. U.S. has reached the gold medal match 5 of 6 Olympics since women's soccer became an event. And unlike some of the other teams in Tokyo, The women's national team has played warm-up games for months leading up to this amid the pandemic. So it was just a little shocking, Scotty, when I saw this result, and I was like, what? It was a little, it caught me off guard. I mean, and here's the thing. Am I worried about them? Absolutely not. I think they're still the favorites. They should still be the favorites. However, they did play a really, really good Sweden is not a bad team. This was a team that played them really well previously in international play, and
number 5 ranked team in the world. So not a slouch by any means.
No. So
and quite frankly, I think like some of the other top teams in the world, like France and Germany, I believe, didn't qualify because of the really weird qualifying they have for the U.S. Olympic Games, where there's just not time to do a qualifying, so they base it off of World Cup results, and they only take 3 teams from Europe. And of course, like I think in the World Cup, the last Women's World Cup, either 6 or 7 of the quarterfinal teams were Europe teams. So only 3 of those got to make it though to the Olympics, because they only have 3 teams from Europe in the Olympics. But anyway, so Sweden might be their toughest competition in this tournament, but the U.S. was on a 44-game streak of not losing. So I believe they'd won 40 of those, tied 4, and lost 0. And to come out in your opening game of the Olympics and just look totally overmatched. Now, granted, I didn't see the game. I don't know if anybody actually in the U.S. watched the game, because it was in the middle of, for our time, it was like 2, 3 in the morning, something like that. So I'm not going to watch that. But disappointing, like 3-0. Not only to lose your first game in 45 games, but lose 3-0 to the same team that knocked you out of the prior Olympics in the quarterfinals in Sweden. Something about Sweden, like they have their number. And this wasn't a game where it was like a fluke. Like Sweden, from what I've read and looked at, just outplayed US in every aspect just about. So, like, yes, the US should have, the top 2 teams from each pool advance. So I think they have New Zealand, and actually I think maybe Australia. So coming up, I know New Zealand's their next game. They should beat those 2 teams and they should move on, but they gotta kind of get it together. I don't know if they were just overconfident, sleepwalking, the long trip to Japan, settling in, what it was. And of course there's the whole controversy of, which both teams did right before the game, but they knelt down on one knee in protest right before the game started. Both Sweden and US did. We don't have to dive too much into that outside of, I don't know what purpose that serves, but okay. Do your thing. But anyway, I don't know. But here's obviously a vocal US women's team that's complained about not having equal pay as the men, and a lot of different things where, that's fine, and they have every right to complain about that and make their point and see what they can get and get theirs. But at the same time, when you're on the biggest stage like the Olympics or World Cup, you got to show up and you got to put out.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I think the last time, I think actually it was in the World Cup when they won this past World Cup. Either that or it was the last Olympics they won. They lost their opening match in that to Norway 2-0. So they can bounce back from this. They can come back from it, but and I'm sure they'll move on to the knockout stages. But they got to play a lot better, and they're gonna have to probably face Sweden again. And Sweden has their number, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Patrick, chat, Facebook. Hey, welcome back, my friend. Thanks for popping in. It's been a while since we've chatted, but Japan has hurt the U.S. women. I feel like, there's been a lot of stories around Japan in general, just, with how they've handled the COVID stuff and how things are, kind of progressing forward with, you got all the stories with, like, no spectators and, I don't know, there's all these different things happening, and this influx of, the COVID pandemic is still kind of hitting over there a little bit. And so I feel like there's some of that maybe influence there. I don't know. Could be. Again, it is, a long flight over there. You got to get settled in. There's a lot that goes into it. So, yeah.
By the way, Chris, sorry. I can't see. I don't think you shared your screen back with me after you got rid of it the last time.
There we go. Here we go.
So I can't see what P Nixon in the chat is saying, but Japan is. I mean, you said it, but yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess I don't know a lot about what that means because, like, versus what's gone on with Sweden. I don't know. Is there a different circumstance with the U.S. versus the Sweden women? Because otherwise, I don't know if that excuse holds up, but I don't really know. I know there's some COVID. Listen, these Olympics have the least excitement and build up probably for an Olympic Games, even though they were delayed a year in quite a while. They have the opening ceremony, I think, tomorrow. Oh, the Japan women's team. Okay. I think the opening ceremonies is tomorrow, which obviously there's no fans allowed at anything for the Olympics this year. So that's going to be a super weird opening ceremony where, I don't know, can they even have like volunteers or people doing acts, or I don't know what the rules are for this. Might be a lot of like droids and stuff doing things.
I don't know, man.
Which is cool in and of itself, but
it's going to be wild. But Pat,
yeah.
Thanks for popping in. And you're a big Bucks guy, right? I think, big Packers, Bucks. Sorry about Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah. There you go. Appreciate you jumping in. The next topic we have here is the draft, the expansion draft that is currently taking place. Actually, it might have just wrapped up here, and that has to do with the Seattle Kraken, which we have an idea of where things are at. The biggest thing here was Colorado and what we thought they were going to do and who they ended up taking from Colorado. And they ended up selecting from your Colorado Avalanche, Jonas Donskoy. So he's a right wing. He's a Finn from the Colorado Avalanche who was drafted, and he was the 19th selection of 30. So that was the big one, and it doesn't seem like they made a deal for Landeskog, or they maybe don't have that in place if they're still trying to think through that, but Donskoy is the guy that they selected here. So the selections have kept rolling through. I've been trying to keep track as much as possible. But yeah, there's
it's done now. They announced, so they had to submit by early this morning, and then they were having a expansion draft show. The NHL was tonight, that I think took place like 2 hours. Well, started 2 hours ago. So it's done now. You know, there was a lot of big names out there. Landeskog, Carey Price, the goaltender for Montreal. Some other big names like Duchesne, like some guys. But you also have to think like it's a salary cap thing. There's a lot of choices in mind. So, we talked about how Las Vegas obviously had an expansion draft just several years ago and has had a ton of success. So Ron Francis, the GM for the Seattle Kraken, who has some experience and was one of the greats in the NHL when he played back in his day, is very analytic driven. Very, hey, we're gonna save money where we can. We're not just gonna take the top talent. We got to think about contract and salary cap and moving forward. And now they can still sign guys in free agency. So if they left a lot of money out there, they're going to be able to try and wheel and deal and sign guys. So, like, theoretically, they can still go out and try and sign like a Gabriel Landeskog if they want, since he's an unrestricted free agent when that period begins for all teams. But yeah, so not a ton of like huge names, but nonetheless, their roster is filled out. Donskoy for the Avs was a top 6 forward for him. Actually was on, like, a lot of times would play on their first line power play along with Rantanen, Landeskog, McKinnon, and Makar. So he'll be missed, but the Avs, when you have a talented roster like they had, like, they didn't have a lot of options. They were going to lose a good player, and that was pretty apparent that was going to happen. Could have been someone as good as their captain in Landeskog. Wasn't that, but here we are, and their roster's filled out. So we have a new NHL team.
Yep.
And the best name in all of hockey.
Kraken. Release the Kraken. They have been released officially. So, a couple of the big contracts that were taken. Mark Giordano for the Calgary Flames, making $6.75 million. So that was one of the bigger acquisitions from that standpoint. New York Islanders, Jordan Eberle, $5.5 million, right winger from New York. You had Donskoy, who was up there as well. Donskoy was about, I think, 3.9 million, I should say.
3.9, yeah.
So he was up there. And a couple others. Jared McCann, Toronto Maple Leafs, nice little name. And then Yanni Gourde from the champion Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, they have just a wealth of talent on that team. So they were able to snag him from New York. Brandon Tanev from Pittsburgh. So there's some big ones here, but obviously, again, you have to balance it all out. So we'll see how they end up coming out. I know Minnesota tweeted out at one point. They were like, "Good night, world," except for Seattle. We are not saying good night to you, because obviously they knew they were losing a player that they really liked. They ended up losing Carson Sassy, so defenseman for Minnesota. So there you have it. You have a new NHL franchise, and it is going to be interesting to see how quickly they come out of the gates. Because honestly, when Vegas came out and ended up having theirs, Vegas hasn't actually been that bad of a team, if you haven't noticed. They actually are pretty good. So who knows how this team is going to mesh together, but they have a lot of talent now.
For sure. It'll be interesting to see, and we'll find out. I mean, I don't know if they've officially announced the NHL. I assume they're going back to normal division play and conferences and stuff next year. That would make sense. So let's get back to that. A little more variety, play a lot more teams and whatnot. So it was fun for maybe a year, but I'm ready to get back to the normal in hockey.
And then I believe Phoenix moves to the Central Division in this move as well, with the Kraken coming in. I think that was the case. I think I heard that. So there's a little bit of shifting along some of the teams to make room for the Kraken. But yeah, there you have it. The Seattle Kraken. Next on our list is a story that kind of popped up towards the end of the day today, and I didn't really realize what was going on until you shot this story over to me, and that had to do with college football, which is right around the corner. If you haven't really thought about football, you should start thinking about it. But NFL's on its way back, college football's on its way back. A story came out earlier on this afternoon that Texas A&M athletic director Ross Bork is standing up for his school after the Houston Chronicle reported Texas and Oklahoma have reached out to the SEC about joining their conference. So, newspaper cited an unnamed college official that said an announcement could come within a couple weeks. Both Texas and Oklahoma said they would not address the report. Speculation always swirls around college athletics, one of the Texas spokespersons said. So we will not address any rumors or speculation. So this would be an interesting one. Texas A&M, along with Missouri, left the Big 12 to join the SEC in 2012. Obviously, this kind of just all of a sudden, boom, you have a story. Scotty, given the college football landscape and how powerful the SEC is, getting a couple of other teams now, obviously Texas and Oklahoma, really, storied universities when it comes to college football. What do you think about them and this story about them potentially joining the SEC?
I don't like it at all. From a fan vantage point, like, if they leave the Big 12, you're ruining that power conference. Like, that power conference is now down to 8 teams without their 2 biggest powers at this point in Texas and Oklahoma. Like, that conference can't even survive. So then it's just, where do those teams go? Like, we have plenty of talent in the SEC. We don't need Texas and Oklahoma to add on to that and just jumble into one huge giant power conference. They already have 14 teams in the SEC. This will be up at the 16, where you're playing, only half the teams in the SEC anyway at that point, because there's so many other teams in the SEC. I don't like it at all. Like, granted, like four schools can veto this in the SEC, and it just would never happen. You need at least four, and for sure, Texas A&M's not going to let this happen, and Missouri's not going to let this happen. So then you're left with needing two more. I'd be shocked if LSU wanted this. I'd be shocked if Arkansas wanted this. Some of those schools that are a little closer location-wise, so like a Texas and Oklahoma, a little more towards the central part of America. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is just leverage once again that Texas and Oklahoma are trying to leak out there that, like, hey, we'd love to do this, but in reality, I think they're staying right where they are. Like, how do you? I guess I don't. This is a really weird time of year for this to come up too, where you're about a month out from the college football season. Obviously, nothing would they'd stay in the Big 12 this year for sure, regardless, and maybe a year after that. But even if they did agree to a deal, but I just don't buy it. I don't buy that this is happening. The Texas A&M AD has come out and said this has not been a discussion we've had in the SEC at all, and I would certainly fight to not have this because they want to be the only Texas team in the SEC. And I just think it's better to have separate and have more, different conferences. We don't need all the best teams to just be in one conference. I get that's kind of exciting on paper, but I believe they tried to do that in Europe with soccer.
Nope.
And people didn't like that right off the bat. So I don't like it. I'm kind of like, it feels a little bit like what the European,
yep.
All those European powers were trying to do and just combine into one power conference, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
Well, yeah, we'll see. This is a very, very new story, so I'm sure more is going to unfold. But yeah, I think, this is still some posturing. TV contracts are huge, right? Big 12's TV contract with ESPN and Fox also expire in 2025. The Longhorn Network for Texas, the deal with ESPN goes through 2031. There's a lot of money tied up in these television deals as well. So, as far as that goes, the Big 12 would still own schools' media rights for the other sports and this and that. But it's going to be an interesting to see how this pans out. But two big powers joining potentially the SEC again. Forget everything else. It's like, let's just have everyone join the SEC. And
while you're at it, you might as well throw
OSU.
Teams on the on that end of the spectrum. Get Miami and Florida State and some of those other teams in there. Let's just get everyone in the SEC.
Crazy, man, crazy. And then just to wrap up here, we have another related football news update, and that has to do with the Rams' Cam Akers, who this week ended up having a season-ending injury that will sideline him for this season and potentially part of next season. So he ends up having a torn Achilles that he sustained in I believe this was like a training session that I believe is working out and underwent testing to confirm the diagnosis. So just normal working out. We've had a lot of injuries across various teams. The Broncos had all those issues with off-season workouts and some of the players getting hurt there, and then you have this with Cam Akers, which this one's a big one in the sense that he was projected to be one of the best running backs in the league this year, based off of what they were going to throw at him in this Rams team. I've seen a lot of mock drafts for fantasy football having him as one of the top 3 or 4 running backs off the board, being able to just be super dynamic. I believe this is his second year in the league, if I'm not mistaken, Scotty.
Akers?
Yeah.
Second or third. Yeah, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but he's definitely young.
Yeah.
Could be a second. I think that might be right.
So, in 13 regular season games total, Akers was the Rams' leading rusher with 625 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 145 carries. He also caught 11 passes for 123 yards and a touchdown. He was just on the up and ups. And so, it's kind of upsetting to see here that he's not going to be able to. I mean, obviously, it's the next man up each and every time this happens, regardless of the team. But you just feel bad for the kid, especially when you knew that was going to be a fun division to watch, too, given all the teams and how well they're, building up. I mean, that's a fun division between, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Niners, all those guys, the Cardinals. I mean, all those teams are going to, I think it's one of the more fun divisions to watch. But Cam Akers will not be able to play, and he is taking this year off.
Yeah, this is unfortunate for obviously a Rams team that traded for Stafford and is all in on trying to get back to the Super Bowl like they did a couple years ago and maybe win it. Up and coming player. Now the drop off. Listen, running back to me is not a valued position. It's not a valued position. So
not anymore.
The drop off to me at the running back position from usually your number 1 to your number 2, unless you have a very, very, very elite guy, is not a huge drop off. And they have a 3rd round pick that's coming into, I think, his 3rd or 4th year, and Darrell Henderson out of Memphis. It's a really, really good player. Like, yeah, Akers led the Rams with 625 yards rushing last year on 145 carries. Well, Darrell Henderson had 624 yards on 138 carries. So he had 21 fewer yards on 7 fewer carries. So these guys were kind of 1A, 1B. Now Akers definitely took the load in the second half of the year and kind of took that on after, easing into things as a rookie running back last year. So he was definitely going to be their number 1 option. The problem with Henderson is Henderson's been injury prone in his young career already. They don't have anything recognizable after Henderson. So it'll be interesting to see if they address that with some of the veterans out there that are available in free agency. I don't there's Adrian Peterson still somehow alive and present. Guys like LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell, big names in the past that maybe they take a flyer on. Duke Johnson is another name that not as big of a name, but also not as old as some of those guys and doesn't have the wear and tear. But he's similar to me to a guy like Darrell Henderson, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. I think they're fine with Henderson if he stays healthy. Like, he'll be able to produce and they'll be fine. If he gets beat up, then you might see an effect on their run game and their ability to score in general on offense with the brilliant Sean McVay leading the helm there on their offense.
I mean, honestly, if you have Sean McVay, you know that you're going to be getting a high-powered offense regardless, right? Regardless of who's in there. We've seen that with the quarterback play over the last, year and a half where they've been stringing together some weird quarterbacks that I've never even heard of and still getting performances out of them that you wouldn't expect from guys that you've never heard of. So if anyone can mold in a nice little offense for whoever ends up filling in these gaps for these injuries, it's him. He could make that happen. So yeah. So
overall, let's just hope as training camp gets kicked off here for a lot of the teams in the next week or so. No, excuse me. That injuries this year are not a large factor. Of course, they'll be a factor, but especially in training camp, they're doing 2 preseason games this year, I believe. Cutting back on that, although they had 0 last year, so a little more than last year, but now 17 games. I just hope that we don't see significant injuries to some of our, the biggest name players in the game where they're out before we even see them on the football field this year.
We don't need a repeat of the NBA season and the NBA, what happened with all the stars there. Let's just put it that way.
Yep.
But that's going to do it for our news roundup here. Now, we have a nice, fun segment to wrap up the NBA. But before we get to that, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who's watching here right now, whether you're Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. If you're here and you're enjoying the content, you're enjoying all the things that we got going on, first of all, we'd love to hear your opinions on these things because it means a lot for us to get to know you guys and what you guys think about Aaron Rodgers or the U.S. women's team or the Seattle Kraken, or whatever it is you want to talk about. So make sure you hit it in the chat and, share your thoughts on all the things that we got on the slate. Even if it's something that's been on your mind all week, you have no one to share it with at the water cooler, and everyone's, working from home or something. Hey, we could be your water cooler. Come over and talk to us. We'll have a great time, and we'll entertain all of your conversations. So we love that you're watching. Also, hit that follow button if you're here. It means a lot to us, whether you're on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, because you know what? We like to get and build this community even bigger and bigger. Right now, we're approaching 50 on Twitch. Scotty, we're almost to 50. That's a fun benchmark. So let's try to get to 50. If you're here, help us. We're almost there. We're at 38 or something. We're not far away. 12 away. We could do that.
That math checks out.
Yeah, we could do that.
So we don't only talk sports. We're pretty decent with numbers too.
We're decent with numbers. We love math here. Scratch that. We hate math. But let's go in.
I love math, actually. Thank you very much.
I didn't hate math. I was more of a geography guy, not geography, a geometry guy, by the way.
Ugh.
See,
we could not be more opposite. We've talked about this before.
We've talked about this, yeah. So algebra, numbers and letters going together, not my jam. But I could put together a circumference of a circle, the area of a cube, or the of a square, whatever. You throw that, isosceles triangles. Oh man, we're getting into where's Mayday when you need him? He's in school, right? He's doing some math.
Congratulations on knowing your shapes.
I know my shapes. I have a daughter. We have to talk shapes. She needs to learn her isosceles, right triangles, you name it. We'll do it.
What's the difference between a right and an isosceles?
A right just goes 90 degrees. Isosceles, I couldn't tell you. I just know that's a triangle. But let's dive in. We have some things to recap, and I want to spend a good chunk of the rest of this show talking about the wrap up of the NBA season, what we saw last night, and everything that it means moving forward for not only just the NBA, but the Bucks, the Nuggets, the other teams going on here, because obviously there's a lot to talk about. And let's just jump in. Let's recap what we saw last night with the Milwaukee Bucks. And
before we start, I do need to go grab a beer. I need to grab a beer. And I do need to chug this beer on stream.
So if you guys are just joining us here, we had a bet going into the last stream on Sunday that I would be able to pick the outcome of this next game, and if it were to come to fruition, Scotty here would chug a beer on stream. I decided to say that the Bucks would close out in 6 games, the Phoenix Suns, and win the national championship. That did end up happening. You ended up taking Suns in 7.
So basically I gave you first pick.
Yep.
I said Bucks in 6, Bucks in 7, Suns in 7. What are you taking? You can take any of the 3. You took Bucks in 6, which meant, in my mind, obviously that means Suns have to win Game 6, and they're back home with maybe some momentum for Game 7. So I took Suns in 7. Bucks in 6 it was. So let me go grab a beer real quick. Hopefully I have like a light beer. Usually I don't have a ton of light beers, so I don't know what I have in the fridge. It might have to be like an IPA or something that I'm chugging. We'll see.
Okay. No, Dark Sage 9117 have a question for this panel regarding the Olympics. Yeah, shoot. What do you got? Let us know what you're thinking. We are covering a little bit of the Olympics with the U.S. soccer, but we do have that coming up here. Might be doing some gold medal predictions for different things, but yeah, fire away. Shoot your question, and we'll tackle it. By the way, Dark Sage, welcome to the Action Lab. Nice to see you in here with us, enjoying the company. So, but yeah, diving in to some of these details of the Phoenix Suns Milwaukee Bucks game. 105-98 was the final here, and in this one, it was interesting because Milwaukee came out fast in this one, and then this was kind of a reverse of the last game where they ended up having an awful second quarter, only scoring 13 points. Both teams in this first half were just struggling, so we had to battle through some sloppy basketball in the first half, but that doesn't take away from the instant classic this was when it came to Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was absolutely stellar. This may be arguably one of the best closeout games besides that Michael Jordan game in I think the Utah series. He hit that game winner in game 6, 45 points out of the 84 points that they scored, I believe, in that game. This is up there with that one. This one could be one of the greatest closeout games by any one player in NBA history. So we're going to touch on that here in a second once Scotty jumps back in. And, yeah, we'll see what we have here. But, Scotty, what kind of beer did you find while you were...
I got like 50-plus beers in my fridge, and I could not find a light beer. So I have a nice hazy IPA.
Oh, that's an interesting one to choose for chugging right there.
It says summer break on it, so it seems like it might be the lightest IPA. I'm an IPA guy, guys.
By the way, I reached out.
A lot of those.
I tweeted at Tai Tuivasa, the UFC fighter who drinks out of a boot. I tweeted at him. I clipped one of our last show, and I shot it over to him. Have yet to hear. So if you have ties to Tai Tuivasa out there in the world, we'll clip another one, and we'll keep sending him clips until he jumps in and joins us here for a show, and we could all chug a beer out of a boot or a shoe. So, anyways, all right. Actually, before you chug this, Dark Sage has a question regarding the Olympics.
Okay.
For the 6 years or so, I've been wanting the rematch between Germany and Brazil in soccer. After the last two contests in 2014 World Cup where Brazil got thrashed and a 2016 gold medal game which Brazil won, I am concerned their preliminary meeting tomorrow will not be what fans want it to be, and we need to get a Germany-Brazil 3 in the finals. My question is this a match you guys want to see after the last two times they've met? I feel like we never got a definitive who is better between them based on their meetings that took place in 2014 and 2016. Wow. Love it, Dark Sage. Thank you.
It was a very good question.
That's a
very
great...
thorough. Appreciate that.
See, we love that thorough here in the Action Lab. Yeah. No, I mean, we're just kicking off all of our coverage for all of this soccer. I love following soccer, by the way, for the Olympics. It's one of my favorite things to cover when it comes to the Olympic Games. Obviously, swimming and basketball are always like, they're fine, whatever, but it's always nice to see what ends up happening with soccer. But, Scotty, Germany and Brazil 3 in the finals. We need that matchup, right?
That would be a great matchup. Absolutely, I'd love to see Germany and Brazil in the final. Overall, I think it would be. We just had the Euro Cup, so no offense to all these European teams, but I don't necessarily want two European teams going at it in the final. So in my mind, because right now the odds makers have Spain as the favorite. To win this tournament, with Brazil coming a little behind them, and then France and Germany and Argentina. So in my mind, what I would like to see in a final is one of those South American teams, whether it's Brazil or Argentina, battling out against a Spain, France, or Germany. But Brazil, Germany 3, although this isn't in a World Cup, not quite the stakes and not quite the pressure of a tournament like that, would be a phenomenal final. So where you got to have bragging rights there between, obviously there's some debate out there about who the top teams in the world are, whether they are in Europe, are they in South America. Obviously they both just had tournaments with the Euro Cup and the the Copa America Cup. So where Argentina actually upset, of course, Brazil in the final there, and Germany didn't obviously have quite the run that everyone expected in the Euro Cup. So it should be super interesting. It seems like it gets wild that we're getting into another international competition in soccer after what we just watched with the Euro Cup and Copa America, but I'm here for it. And while they do play early on, that doesn't mean that, they still will likely both advance, and what that means is they'll be on separate sides of the bracket moving in where they could meet certainly in the final. So looking forward to that. Did I freeze again?
You froze again. It's all right.
Unbelievable.
I don't even know if that's my screen or your screen or what, but we're back. We're back with you. So, yeah. So Dark Sage, great question. Love it. Obviously, Brazilian team is reigning Olympic champion in men's football. 5 years ago, Rio de Janeiro. They were able to beat Germany in a penalty shootout, winning the first gold medal in the history of Brazilian football at the Olympics. So, that was huge for Brazil. Germany is a great football power, but never really, never in their history have they reached the gold medals in the Olympics. So this will be a big one for them to really get their feet under them in this tournament. Obviously, Euros fell a little short, right? But this is where I have a lot of fun with this matchup here, because again, we're fresh off Euros. We want to see some other world teams come in and have some fun with some of these Euro teams, and that's Brazil. So Brazil's going to be up there, and yeah.
Obviously, Dark Saga's talking about the the whole conspiracy idea that Brazil was paid off to lose in that 2014 World Cup, because they did lose 7-1, and Brazil does not lose 7-1, right? Like, that just doesn't happen. Now, granted, they were without two of their biggest pieces, certainly, and number one biggest piece in Neymar, who got injured earlier on in the tournament, as well as Thiago Silva. So they were without two big pieces, which maybe there's an idea that with after losing those two big pieces, they struggled to rebound, and once they got down early, they kind of quit in that World Cup, where they just got blitzed by Germany. And that was the craziest thing. I've never seen a Brazilian team face something like that and get totally dominated like that. But there's obviously always been some controversy with Brazil in general, as far as some immoral things they've done, whether it's accepting money and some corruption and fallout with that. Not always with their players, but with just some different scandals that kind of rip through them, paying off politicians and things like that. So it's I can't rule it out. And hey, you and I are the two biggest conspiracy theorist guys in the world.
We love it.
We want to believe in all of them, but how much if they got paid, how much do they get paid to keep quiet and keep it quiet for this long? Like, how much money are we talking about? Because the World Cup's a big deal, and some of those players have played their entire lives to make it to that moment. So what's the price tag?
Yeah, I'd be curious. By the way, 4 head-to-head encounters between these two teams throughout Olympic history. 1952, German encountered the Brazilian team, ended up winning 4-2. 1984, Brazilian national team players proved to be stronger in that one, 1-0. 1988 and 2016, both matches ended in a draw, but both teams penalty shootout. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at in those games, in those shootouts. It ended up being Brazil coming out on top. So that's where we're at with that one. But Dark Sage, great questions. We are going to get so deep into some Olympics in general, but definitely some soccer, so we can make sure that we get all of the best matchups. I mean, this is next to World Cup. I mean, you're getting the big powers across the board to come into a tournament and play, which is going to be a lot of fun. But make sure you hit that follow button so you know when we are going live with those Olympic shows that we're going to be putting on here soon, because we're going to be doing that here very, very soon on our Olympic predictions, gold medals, silver medal, bronze medal predictions, who we like, whether it's track and field, swimming, soccer, basketball, whatever it is. We like to touch on all those things. So hit that follow button so you don't miss any of those shows that we have coming up. Appreciate it, Dark Sage. But yeah, so back to the Suns and the Bucks. So you still have to chug that beer. I'm gonna let you jump in and just power through. I don't want to get warm on you.
Yeah, I did pour it in a glass so people didn't think I just had an empty can in front of me. But cheers, everybody. Hopefully I finish this. And I'm going to time myself just so I know. I'm going to look at the timer here. Ready? And
there it is. Boom. There it is. I don't win too many bets against you, Scotty, but that one felt good.
Ugh. Feels good for me too.
Get some nice gas out if you need. Do what you got to do.
It feels like it's on the edge here. It'll be out in a second.
But let's talk about this a little bit because honestly, this was one of the best. I was talking while you were gone grabbing a beer, but this was a heck of a game in the second half. The first half was sloppy. I don't know if you watched the first half. It was just missed shot after missed shot. We had 29-16 in the first by Milwaukee, outscoring Phoenix. And then it flipped in the second quarter. Both teams just looked all over the place. Super sloppy. But Milwaukee ended up proving to be the better team in the second half. Giannis Antetokounmpo, next to maybe Jordan in closeout games, this could be one of the best closeout performances in an NBA Finals. Up there with Michael Jordan against that Utah team, Game 6, when he hit that game winner. This is up there, right? This is arguably one of the better performances we've ever seen in an NBA Finals closeout game. 50 points. He had 5 blocks. He did it on both ends of the court. Not many times do I really see a game of this magnitude where it seemed like he was the only guy that really needed to be on the court. Now, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, they weren't spectacular in this game. They were good. They hit a couple shots when they needed to, but they weren't great. They didn't have the best game. This literally was Giannis Antetokounmpo putting this team on his back. We're far cry away. By the way, 17 of 19 free throws. Spectacular. Who is he? Like, what is that? We're a far cry from possibly not seeing him after that injury where he hyperextended his knee. Remember that? We've come a long way. We've come a long way, and look what he's done. So the Phoenix Suns just could not do anything to stop him. There was zero chance. And arguably, I don't know. DeAndre Ayton, he was a liability on both ends of the court. He was playing scared, it looked like. He was awful. Worst game he's played in the playoffs, by far, in a closeout game. Man, this one, Budenholzer, I got to give Coach Budenholzer a lot of credit. I feel like he made a lot of adjustments when it came to, his lineups, the way he, just kind of retooled all of the after losing 2 games right off the bat, 2-0 series deficit, going back to Milwaukee, and he made the necessary changes to get them in a spot where they can win 4 straight, which I never would have thought they would have been able to do. So, man, Scotty, did you watch this whole game last night?
I did. Outside of, I missed part of the third quarter, actually. I was at work, watched the first half while I was at work in my office, and then headed home at halftime. So I missed a little bit of the third quarter, but overall, yeah, I saw it.
Man, yeah. What were your thoughts when it came to the Bucks, Giannis?
Giannis, well, obviously, he put up a 50 burger in a Game 6 closeout game. And like you talked about, he went, what'd you say went from the line? Like 16 to 17, 17 to 19?
17 of 19, 50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks. Now, those blocks, he played on both ends of the court. It's not like this was just a 50-point spot where he wasn't impact on the other end, so.
There's a reason Ayton was a little scared and hesitant. It's because of the length and athleticism that Ayton provides when he's covering him. Hell of a game. I hate the fact that, listen, he went 16 to 25 from the field. 15 of those field goals were inside the paint. Like if you're Phoenix, you can't. He only took, and granted, he only took, I think, let me look. I'm looking at the shot chart right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots of his 25 outside of the paint. So you allowed him to get 19 shots within the paint and make 15 of those. He was 15 and 19 from the paint. Like, if you're Phoenix, like, make someone listen. And I know, like, Middleton's had his moments in the series. Holiday, less or so, but played a really good game 5 offensively. And Holiday's been a stud on. Holiday's a tremendous defender.
Yep.
So even when he's not shooting well, you know he's a plus player for you because he can obviously match up with a guy, especially like a Booker, and give him a lot of fits, and maybe have a crucial steal at different points in different games and things of that nature. Going back to game 5 when Booker had the ball with a chance to win it. So Giannis is an impressive athlete, impressive player. Finally, like, and I honestly don't know all of these tweets that you're going to show. I have not seen them because part of me likes to also react naturally to these
yeah.
and give my opinion right off the cuff without knowing what you're going to throw at me. So I don't want to, I don't even know what you're going to show, so I don't want to ruin any of that. But Giannis was incredible. No doubt about it. Well-deserved MVP. Went and got 50 chicken nugget mini biscuits.
I saw that.
Chick-fil-A.
I saw that. That poor girl
which
was
I was
like
jealous of.
That poor girl was like so caught off guard. Like, sure, yeah, whatever you want. I don't even. Do you really think she knew who he was when he pulled up?
How do you not? How do you not know if you're living in Milwaukee? Like, you gotta know who Giannis is, right? Like, how do you not know? My question is, how was he up in the morning?
By the way, he said he didn't go to sleep, which I kind of believe. But man, if there's a pure joy from a guy after winning a big championship, that's probably the happiest I've ever seen any one player across any sport. Joy. The joy that he had. He was taking pictures. He was hugging everybody. He looked genuinely like this is the greatest moment, and it was fun to watch that, actually, after this game.
Listen, he is one of the most likable personalities you can find in a superstar. Especially in the NBA where at times there's a lot of ego there or this and that. Giannis is likable. Like, if you don't like what's not like to like,
you can't hate him.
And he kind of threw shade, and I don't know if you're going to address this. He kind of threw shade in his post-game presser, talking about, hey, I could have joined a super team. I could have done it the easy way, but I stayed here and we won it. We did it. And I give him mad respect for that. Like, that means more. That means that's like Dirk staying with Dallas when they won back in like 2011. Like, that doesn't happen a lot.
Nope.
And for him to hold there and his personality and to just be, he seems like a very, very genuine, good dude. And so I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Milwaukee, who obviously it's been 50 years since they won an NBA championship, and now they have to deal with Aaron Rodgers drama out there. So they needed this. They needed this because now it at least delays the reality that they have to face whatever is happening with Rodgers and the Packers for a little bit. And so I'm happy. Like, I didn't pick them. I picked Phoenix, but I'm not. Even when I picked Phoenix, it's not like I had a horse in the race. I think Milwaukee's more likable as a team. So happy for them. They played their hearts out. They played really well, and good for them. Like, I don't often say this. Obviously, a lot of times the teams that win the NBA championship, I'm like, they didn't deserve. They just, bought this team, or all these guys sold their soul to just join up. And we already have talks about like where Chris Paul's gonna be, and that the Lakers are recruiting Chris Paul.
It's like,
and if not, Russell Westbrook maybe. And I'm just like, gross.
Yeah,
gross.
yeah. No,
that's not how you build a championship team. Like, and if you're a Lakers fan, you should feel dirty about that. So dirty. That's not how you build a championship. Like, earn it. Like, win it.
Yeah.
Like Milwaukee just did.
No, 100%. I mean, obviously, they did it the way that most teams, I feel, should do it. That's the way, it just seems so just natural for a team like Milwaukee to win this. Now, here's the thing. Did they get a little lucky on their run here? Sure, they did. They got really lucky because, honestly, there were some matchups that, Brooklyn could have been one of those teams early on.
Healthy Irving, they don't win that series.
They
don't win that series.
I think
not trying to take anything away from the Bucks,
no, not at all.
Kyrie Irving's healthy in that series and plays, and Harden came back from injury, so
then
we'll get into maybe some more specifics with that, but no, the Nets would have beat them. And they went to overtime in Game 7 without Kyrie Irving.
And not only that, but just the matchup with Phoenix. Phoenix, coming out of the West with all the injuries that took place, things had to align for the Bucks to get to this point, and they did. And they play who's in front of them, and that's what they did. So here they are. They did what they had to do. Phoenix again, they're retooling. They're getting ready for what's going to be next. Obviously, Chris Paul scored 26 points to end his finals appearance. His first NBA Finals appearance in his 16th season. Devin Booker only had 19 points, shot 8 for 22, missed all 7 of his threes after scoring 40 points in each of the last 2 games. So he just could not get a rhythm going, and you can just tell he was just not in a good spot. But also, too, maybe they had a lot of people in that crowd outside. 65,000 packed in the Deer District outside. Man, you want to talk about a team that showed up. Can you imagine having to pee in the middle of that? Those screens, by the way, were the tiniest screens. And I was sitting there and I was like, if I'm drinking, have a good time celebrating the Bucks, where do I go to the bathroom?
That's funny, and we haven't talked about this. I saw a tweet where it was a aerial shot, and it was just all these fans, and then there was one porta potty, and the comment on was, "Prayers up for that porta potty."
Prayers.
Because that thing's gonna get dominated.
Oh my
and
gosh.
The line for that, I imagine, I don't know what they did, and I don't think I want to try and think about it too hard because they probably found alternative solutions in some fashion. But hey, they had a night of their lives, celebrating a Bucks team that, Milwaukee's obviously not a big market. We don't see these type of teams win it enough in the NBA where you can just form these alliances and super teams. So in that essence, both these teams were that way. Neither of these teams were super teams that were just, a lot of it was draft and develop on both sides. Obviously, they made deals to sign, obviously Phoenix with Chris Paul, Milwaukee adding Holiday in the offseason. So those were pieces to put them over the top, but otherwise, and they had other pieces too, but a lot of it was just homegrown talent, not just attracting superstars and trying to win with 2 top tier, 3 top tier guys like maybe teams in LA like to do.
Yeah, no, it was fun to see. Now I'm gonna pull up and we're gonna talk about this for a little bit, but I have a couple tweets that had me thinking. Now some of these just have overarching themes with the NBA. Some have themes with the Bucks, and we'll dive in. But let's do it. Let's jump in here. First tweet here is I don't even know who this is by, but interesting. 2021 NBA MVP is Nikola Jokic of our Denver Nuggets. NBA Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. NBA Champion and Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. International game. You have some of the biggest players winning the biggest awards, and they're all international guys. And international guys are getting better and better. They're still...
This even omits a certain player that people seem to think is pretty good in Luka.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Luka didn't even make this list because he didn't but still Luka's in the conversation of this, and it's turning into an international game. You're getting guys that are coming from overseas and making an impact in the NBA, which you've never seen as much before. I mean, you had Dirk Nowitzki, right, who came over. He was one of the German player coming over and making a big impact. And, he was, the staple for international players for a while. But yeah, with all of these players, is the NBA starting to get a little bit more from these international studs? Like, yeah, I used to remember, by the way, we used to draft international players here in Denver quite a bit over the years. Some bad ones. But Skeetershvili. International players, we had Nene. Nene was fine. He had,
Nene was more than fine. Nene was great.
He had a great career. We had a lot of guys that came from overseas that ended up plugging into the Nuggets uniforms and were fine. But the caliber of players we're seeing now is completely different.
For sure. You're looking at when did all right. This all started with the 92 Dream Team, right? Like that global spectrum that was that 92 Dream Team, where finally, pro players were allowed to play in the Olympics from the U.S. side, and just able to dominate and travel, and people were able to witness like these phenomenal talents just dominate these other guys. And ever since then, we've seen a growth in the international game, and it's just continued to grow. Obviously, there's been guys here and there. Yao. Obviously, Yao Ming was a big player there.
We haven't even mentioned Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. He definitely is, but he
technically
also went to college out here. He moved here earlier, so it's a little different. Like, obviously, a KU boy.
Yeah.
Don't want to forget that. But yeah, no, these international guys, certainly the international game has improved. Look at what the U.S. team has done in their pregame, exhibitions leading up to this Olympics. They've kind of got shown that they're not all they think they are. So the international games continuing to develop. These guys are often more skilled. A lot of times, Giannis is just a remarkable athlete, like incredible athlete. I would say if you're ranking top two athletes in the NBA, like it's Giannis and LeBron. Maybe LeBron's had to step back because of age and stuff.
Yeah.
But those are the top two. Just when you talk about pure physical specimens.
Yeah. I'd agree. And then also, and then if you want to talk about working hard, Giannis works hard. He has that Russell Westbrook working hard mentality where he's just like everywhere. So, man, this international game, I used to cringe every time the Nuggets took an international player. I don't do that anymore. We'll see what ends up happening in this draft. There's a lot of international players coming out. I'll be keeping my eye on a lot of those guys. We'll cover that here coming up in this next week's draft. So make sure you guys are here for that coming up next week so we can get all of you the information you need to know who's who, especially some of these international players that could make an impact on your team. So, next tweet. All right, I'll blow this one up a little bit. Giannis just won the title. This is Max Kellerman, i.e. ESPN. Won the title and Finals MVP with a 50-point performance. He didn't win regular season MVP for a third consecutive season because Jokic beat out Embiid for it. AD could have been Finals MVP last year. We are in an era of bigs. And this was an interesting one in the sense that it is interesting to know that, like, when the NBA when we were growing up was very center oriented. You get the ball down low to a Shaq, to a Tim Duncan, to you rolled through the paint when you played in NBA. Then we kind of gravitated away from the post up mentality and dumping the ball down low to a more of a 3-point scoring mentality, which we are in now. However, you have a lot of big boys that are making some big time waves, and centers don't get lost in that translation. Obviously we have some big time bigs in this league that, even though it's a 3-point shooting league, they're standing out. And I thought that was an interesting tweet because it seems contradicting when you have 3-point shooters, and that's the game that we're playing, that you have as many solid bigs in the league as we do now.
Yeah, I agree and disagree with this text or this tweet.
Okay.
On a couple notes, like have bigs come back a little bit. Like we were in an era where like small ball was the thing, and you saw Golden State Warriors who would just play and stretch the court, and Draymond Green at like 6'9" was their big, and they were able to win convincingly and was shooting. And he did things and he was able to pass, but they didn't have any interior game necessarily outside of lobs or putbacks on rebounds or something. So certainly when you're talking about Joker and Embiid being two of the top MVP candidates this year, I agree. And yeah, that's a return to something that we haven't necessarily seen in a while. We've talked about that before, I feel like. AD could have been Finals MVP last year. No. And this is coming from a guy. I froze again.
You keep freezing, man.
This is from a guy that doesn't like LeBron, but at the same time, I don't think there was any question who the MVP of the NBA Finals was last year. I think it was LeBron, and then Giannis. I guess I just don't see Giannis as a true big. Is he a big?
I mean, he's a weird one.
Me, he's I know he's 6'11". I get that he's 6'11". You know who's 6'10", 6'11" for the Nuggets? Michael Porter Jr. Is he a big? No, he's not a big. I'm not saying their games are the same because they're not.
I think,
but
maybe
Giannis
it's the style.
When I think, because when I think of bigs, I think of post up, I think of back to the basket, I think of things like that. And that's
rebounding, blocks. Like he has a lot of those.
Giannis can do that. Like Giannis is not a back to the basket guy.
No, he charges forward to the basket. That's kind of his repertoire. Like he likes to.
And he's crazy quick and crazy athletic, and I just.
So he's kind of a weird hybrid.
Because he is. Because I talked about how many shots he got in the paint, and in that mind you're like, oh, so he's a big. But in the same, how he got those shots in the paint isn't how traditional bigs would do that. He's just a different spot. And his athleticism, his length, his quickness, his ability to get off that shot in the paint is second to none maybe in the league right now.
Yeah, he's incredible, man. So,
and he's so long and so fast.
But yeah, I mean, AD is kind of in that sentence too. Like AD is kind of a big body. He's not necessarily a center. He doesn't qualify as a center.
But I think he's a big.
He's a big for sure.
But he has post-up game.
Yeah, so
he's soft.
He's very soft. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, bigs are in a weird spot. They can shoot better from three. They are more athletic. Giannis is just an athletic freak, as we've talked about. I mean, they're evolving so much in a way that it's a little different now.
Yeah, Giannis to me is a wing. He's just a big wing.
A wing that can't shoot threes.
Yeah. They're out there. There's wings that can't shoot out there.
This next tweet here is from our very own Vic Lombardi recently.
Okay.
So I got to give my boy Vic here some love. So Giannis has to be one of the most likable superstars in all the sports. What's not to like? He does it all. And he does it with gratitude and grace. What a stud. And this moment when he was sitting there on the chair was I love that moment. That was one of my favorite moments of the celebration, was him sitting there just taking it all in. Loved it. And we talked about this earlier, about how likable this kid is.
I try not to spoil any of your tweets because I didn't know what you were tweeting, and I did not see this Vic tweet. So it's not like I'm just copying Vic. I did not see this tweet. I don't follow Vic Lombardi actually on Twitter. No disrespect, Vic. I just don't. Maybe I will now. But yeah, we're on the same page. He's just incredibly likable.
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, he's humble. I mean, his quotes after the game saying that he would never join a super team. He stopped himself short of mentioning names and teams, but he had some fun with it. And he jokes around with the media. Everyone seems to love this guy. Like, I even go back to like a year ago or a couple years ago where he was like at a pizza parlor, and I don't know, there was just like this shot of him with like these families having a good time, like in this, like on social media. I mean, he's just everyone knows who he is, and he just stays humble. He's obviously one of the more just genuine guys that you can come across in the NBA, and he just, for a fact. I mean, he talked about his brothers winning championships, and his reaction on that question, he was like ecstatic. He couldn't fathom being happier for his brothers to win an NBA championship with him, and all these different things. He just feels so good.
And he's not just genuine off the court, he's also genuine on the court. A lot of superstars flop, they try and get the call. There's plenty of them out there. We don't have to go through them. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. Like, well, and granted, he's not a great free throw shooter, so maybe that's a part of it. But at the same time, like, he just plays the game the right way. He works hard. He's giving it his all, and he's not trying to influence the refs, get a call this way or that way. He just shows up and plays, and he's probably, he's a 2-time MVP. That's now MVP of a final. Like, there's a ton of accolades. I'm sure you probably have some tweets that I don't want to spoil. I don't know what's going on. So.
Well, let's see what we got here. All right, here's a funny one. I'll blow this up for you. When you trade away your star and they immediately win a championship, i.e. the New Orleans Pelicans, and that's Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis. So New Orleans Pelicans feeling a little, obviously they gave a bunch of love to to Drew Holiday and the Bucks. They were like super happy for you, but you get rid of your two biggest stars in a smaller market where you just are desperate for having somebody just stick around for a little bit, or not being. Obviously Drew Holiday ended up, there was a lot of rumors of him moving around anyway, but New Orleans Pelicans, man, they
even more so. Anthony Davis wanted out.
Yep.
Like, I don't think the Pelicans wanted to get rid of AD.
No.
Anthony Davis wanted out.
But this is what they have to, just see all their stars leaving town and winning championships. So, to the New Orleans Pelicans, I'm sorry.
Can't even make the playoffs.
I'm sorry.
Can't even make the playoffs.
You have Zion. You have Zion. So and Brandon Ingram, you still have him. So who knows?
By the way, was Zion asked? I never even officially heard. Was he asked to be on the Olympic team? Why isn't he on the Olympic team?
I think he might have declined, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be. I'm totally guessing on that. I feel like
you know who's a weird guy that didn't decline? That might be a nice piece. And actually tweeted about it, and I forget the tweet. He posted a meme that was actually pretty funny. Trae Young. Trae Young seems like he would have definitely said yes, but was never asked.
Why not? Get him out there.
Sounds like they didn't ask him.
All right. This one just cracked me up because we've been dealing with Suns and Four Guy for quite a bit. So when I saw this one really cracked me up. How many games did the Suns lose in a row? 4. It was just so classic, throwing shade right back at him. So we don't have to deal with Suns and Four Guy anymore. Obviously, this took place at the Nuggets game here in Denver, which was unfortunate. Now we have to have this on our little resume of stupid fans we have to deal with. Obviously, this guy is super. He's all over social media now. He's got his own little doll, I think, they created for him, everything else. But the Suns had so much going for them, and they were such they're fans. I've never thought of a fan base as like all of a sudden coming to fruition after 2 years ago they were awful. They were absolutely terrible. And all of a sudden they have this ego of a fan base that kind of came out of nowhere, and it kind of stuck, and now they have this like all of a sudden it seems like they have this little reputation of being like established, tough fans that have been around for a while. That, I mean, they rock the place. Don't get me wrong, and they, obviously super fanatic about their team, but they came out of the gates hot this year after being so bad for the longest time. And here's what happens. How many games did the Suns lose in a row? 4.
I had not seen this tweet. Love it. It's great. Part of the Suns fandom is like, hey, they hadn't made a postseason in a long time, right?
Yeah.
And now they're making this long run. They get a little cocky. They get it, but they're loud as heck.
Yeah.
If they start making the playoffs like 3-4 years in a row, let's say they make the playoffs the next few years, but maybe don't make the finals. Do you think that place is going to be as loud? I don't.
Nope.
I don't at all. They're going to be like, all right, we've been here before. We want more. Because that's what fan base is more. Once you make it to a certain thing, they want more. And until you make it to more, they're not, the excitement level and the thrill isn't there. So they made it about as close to winning an NBA Finals as you can without winning it, going 6 games and being up 2-0. This guy is a tool. He was like literally, he made a video where he was selling like signed basketballs that he had signed.
Unreal.
I'm just like, why would anyone buy this? You're only losing money on that investment very, very quickly.
And
it's almost worse than losing money on Top Shot.
Almost. Now, keep in mind, we talked about the Bucks kind of getting, having some lucky breaks in this. The Suns aren't short of that as well. They had their lucky breaks to get to this point, in my opinion, with injuries all through the West. So, if you're a Suns fan, this was your shot. I feel like this was the best opportunity you have, because coming back, you have the Lakers that obviously, and we're going to touch on this here in a minute. We're not done talking about projections for next year. We're going to just alluding to some foreshadowing on some topic here. But the Clippers will be back. The Lakers will be back. Maybe a little older, but they'll be back. The Nuggets and the Jazz will be back. The Portland Trailblazers will fall off a little bit, based off of if they lose Dame, obviously. And then, who am I missing in the West? The Mavericks, obviously. I
don't know if the Clippers. Kawhi may not play next year. Kawhi might not play.
That's a weird one. We'll get.
He had ACL surgery, and here's a guy that's proven that like he's not going to come back too quickly, right? In his San Antonio days. So, but best case scenario with when he had that surgery, you're like talking right before postseason.
Yeah. Best
case. So, and maybe at that point he's just like, I'll wait. I'll come back next year.
Golden State Warriors with Steph and Clay back.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Memphis is young and continuing to develop.
Yep. So
New Orleans will see. Like the West is much better than the East.
Yeah.
Even though the East won the finals.
So that brings us to all of the odds going into next year. Now, these obviously get released literally the day or the evening after any team, football, basketball, baseball. You automatically think, who are the favorites next year to win it all? And right off the bat, we have the Brooklyn Nets. And these have adjusted.
I haven't seen these, but I assume the Nets had to be favorites.
So the Nets are favorites.
Lakers, 1-2 have to be.
Yep. So, and these have adjusted since yesterday. So Brooklyn Nets opened up, I believe, at plus 250. They're at plus 200 right now. The Lakers next in line, plus 525. The Bucks are third at plus 900. Golden State Warriors are fourth at plus 1200. Phoenix Suns are next at plus 1300. Utah Jazz plus 1400. Philadelphia 76ers plus 1600. Clippers plus 2000. Nuggets plus 2,000. Mavericks plus 2,800, and so on and so forth. I don't think it really matters after that. But let me pull this up here. I'm gonna pull this up. Let's do this. Let's get this closed out, and we can take a look at this and maybe digest this a little bit more. All right. Bear with me, guys. By the way, if you're here, hit that follow button. It means a lot to us, and we appreciate each and every one of you who like to follow. All right, so let's see. Odds. Let's pull this down here. And this is according to DraftKings. So let's pull this down. And then let's shrink this up a little bit. But that's what we're looking at for the NBA just preliminary side of things. So let's put this. What do you think there, Scotty? As
I can't see them.
Sorry, give me
Listen,
one second.
It makes a lot of it makes sense. The order makes sense to me for the most part. The odds on the Nets, listen, 2-1. Do I think if the Nets were healthy this year, they would have won it all? Probably, but there's the question: are they going to be healthy next year? Like, Kyrie has a significant history of being injured, a lot. Durant has some injury history as well and can't fully trust all the time. And Harden has a history, even when he's not hurt, in the playoffs, playing at a much worse level than he does in the regular season. So I don't know why you would take Nets at 2-1 at this point. Like, I don't think their odds are going to get significantly. Like, if you like the Nets, wait. Worst case scenario, like, where are their odds going to go? They're never going to move much off of 2-1. So I would wait on that. The Lakers I'll never bet on because I hate them. But I knew they'd be 2. And we'll see where LeBron's at. Let's see if he can bounce back from the terrible Space Jam reviews and the fact that they're going to lose $100 million on that movie. We'll see if he can bounce back from that. Anthony Davis, another guy that is super injury prone, and LeBron is coming up on being 87 years old. So I wouldn't like that bet. I mean, Milwaukee at 9-1. I don't hate it at 9-1. Throwing a flyer on there. I agree with you that Phoenix isn't it. Utah's not it. Philadelphia, with their current roster, is hard to bet on. They just don't have the playmaker or shooting ability that they need right now. Obviously, things are subject to change. The Clippers, I don't get it 20-1 because I don't think Kawhi is going to be a part of that team, maybe at all next year. Nuggets at 20-1. Hell yeah, I like that. That's my favorite bet.
I figured you would like that one. I figured you would like that one.
I mean, but honestly, I really do. If Porter continues to progress, and you have the MVP, and you have Murray coming back for at least probably the last third of the season, and listen, he's not an incredible athlete. It's not like his athleticism is his main point of his game. It's a part of it, but his shooting is his key component. He's actually improved leaps and bounds defensively, so he's actually a plus defender at the point guard position at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't touch the Mavericks at 28-1 because that's a popular team. There's a reason they're like, Vegas knows that that's a team that's going to get bet on, but Vegas doesn't think that team has a chance of winning it. The Nuggets are not a popular team. Of all these teams outside of maybe Utah, they're the least popular team in this graphic right now.
Yeah, I obviously, I don't know.
Why is
man.
Utah? Why is Utah in front of them?
There's a few reasons why I think these are a little funky here, because obviously outside of Jamal Murray being out of the Nuggets lineup, the Nuggets were one of those championship contenders, and you're telling me that when they get him back, obviously he's going to be missing a big chunk of the season. However, you're telling me that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams better than a team that was having championship aspirations last year, and we just missed out on one player making an impact. Now, obviously, we have Phoenix Suns is kind of a weird one for me of why they're so high. Utah, I mean, they're in salary cap issues, right? They're I think towards the top of they have some things they need to work out with some of their roster, I believe. So they need to work that out. They want us to re-sign Connolly. They want to re-sign a couple. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is there. He's going to have. I mean, there's a lot going on with Utah that I don't think that one.
They need to work out the fact that they lost to a Kawhi-less Clipper team.
True. Exactly.
Work those demons out.
76ers, you don't know Ben Simmons and what that's going to look. I mean, there's a lot of question marks. Golden State Warriors were an interesting one. When I first saw this, I was like, what the hell? Like, how are they fourth in this list? How are they fourth?
Yeah.
That one was the biggest shocker to me, in the sense that, sure, you're getting back. You have a couple big-time shooters. We did see what they were able to get into that play-in game, obviously, and with a shit lineup and third-string, fourth-string players, right? But, I mean, does Klay Thompson vault this team automatically up to fourth best in the league? I don't know, man.
They already hate the big they drafted number 2 overall last year.
They hate him.
They want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
They don't. I mean, if Curry's your true point guard, that's fine, but you have no other ability to penetrate and create. You're defensively pretty weak. I like Curry. I like Klay Thompson a lot, but I don't see that. I don't see it at all.
Yeah, kind of weird to me. So I didn't like that, and I still am. I don't know. They're well coached, so I won't take that away from them. But at the same time, it's such a weird thing to see. So I love the Nuggets path. If you want value, bet on the Nuggets. I might throw a little bit of money their way. Well, who knows? Why not? Get value. I think Nuggets actually started out at 2,500 yesterday, and they've dropped. A lot of these have changed a little bit, so we'll see. But another just side note real quick, this is kind of a completely different topic. We're getting towards the end of the show, but
you didn't ask an ultimate question that I thought you'd ask.
Oh, and what
I thought, because I saw when you talked about tweets and having tweets on the show, I saw 2 different guys, Colin Cowherd, Nick Wright, both talking about how Nick Wright specifically referenced how the torch has been passed.
Oh, this was something I wanted to talk about. Yes. All right. Continue.
LeBron James is the best player in the NBA, to now Giannis being the best player in the NBA. And this is the first time in a long time that he's felt like the torch has been passed to a different player. Colin Cowherd, I don't know if he referenced LeBron at all, but also said that Giannis is in the front seat. He said something like he's in the front seat and some of these other guys, top guys, are in the back seat. What do you think? What do you think? Is Giannis the best player in the NBA right now?
Okay, here's what I have to say about this. And I'm taking a couple things into account, because we talked about this a little bit once he had that sustained that injury and he came back and he had those heroic performances, right? He put the team on his back and he won those series. Same thing with this. Like, people say what he can't do, obviously shooting threes, mid-range jumpers. free throws, which he's improving on, it looks like. But I would have to say, like, it's been a long time for me to see. We joke around. We joke around about this a lot. About, oh, you only need one guy on the court at this point. All the other guys don't matter. But you're facetious with that. Obviously, it's a team game. You need everyone on the court. Last night was the closest to that I've come to seeing that only one guy was needed on the court. Like, as much, like, that's the closest you'll find. He literally did everything. Outside of a couple of his teammates that didn't shoot very well, he did everything. You could have taken everyone else off, and he would have probably competed on his own just fine. That's what it felt like. And so the fact that I had that vibe about halfway through the fourth quarter, I was thinking about that. There's not a lot of guys in the NBA that can do something like that. And I felt like this is a turning point in his career where he's unlocked something that has been sitting dormant for a long time. That he's like, wait, you're telling me? I mean, he's been obviously really, really good up until this point. He's won 2 MVPs.
Two-time MVP.
Yeah, he's won 2 MVPs. But he's only getting better. Like, he's, what, 26?
Somewhere around there. 25, 26, 27.
If he can add, a 3-point shot to his game, I think he could be one of the best players to ever play the game. However, I think currently he is the best player in the league right now.
Okay. That's what I wanted you to answer. No, I didn't want you to answer. I just wanted you to finally answer it.
Yeah.
Because you were hinting at it, and I'm like, so are you taking that stance that he's number one in the league?
I think you have to after that game. I feel like you have to.
You don't have to if you're me. Listen, I've talked about, and people are like, oh, you're just a hater. No, I talked about how likable he is. He's an incredibly likable guy. I will always struggle, one, to label a guy who can't shoot, because he really can't, not well, to be the best player in the NBA. And I've always argued that LeBron is the best athlete in the NBA, but not the best basketball player when he's in the NBA. His athleticism combined with his basketball skill may even, certainly at times, make him the best player. But his skill level, no one would say if you just take his LeBron skill level or Giannis's skill level that they're the best player in the NBA. Now you combine that with their athleticism, Giannis, especially his size and length, I get it. I do get it. But what are we talking about right now? We're talking about 2 series ago when they were playing the Nets. No one was mentioning Giannis as even the best player in that series. Everyone was talking about how good Durant was in that series, right? Like, Durant was the best player in that series. I don't think anyone would argue that. Nothing against Giannis played really well in that series, but Durant was the best player in that series and carried that Brooklyn team without Kyrie, without Harden for a few of the games, and then a Harden that was not good when he came back, to a game 7 where, and then they went to overtime.
And he missed the last shot that could have iced the game.
He also made an incredible shot to take it to overtime, where if he had a size shorter shoe, that might have been a 3, and that game would have been over. So we're talking about Kendrick Perkins, talking about how Giannis is the Robin to Middleton being the Batman as they're making the run in the playoffs.
Of course, Perkins.
I'm not saying that's a good thing to say, but we have legitimate people that are analysts on ESPN talking about how Giannis is the Robin on that team, not the Batman. He's the Robin. And now we want to talk about, because he played phenomenal. I think a lot of it was matchup, and this was a great matchup for him. I just have a hard time giving the nod to the best player in the NBA to a guy that made 15 of 19 or whatever I said from inside the paint, but doesn't make shots outside the paint.
Well, here's the thing.
And so they could have taken away some of those shots. They could have taken, and they should have. Phoenix, certainly in Game 7, should have adapted better to not allow him to get room at the top of the key where he got a running start every freaking time, headed into the paint. Like, either play tight on him with help and force someone else to make shots. Everyone stay on Middleton and force every other player on that court to make a shot. Holiday couldn't make a shot.
Middleton couldn't.
I'll say Bobby Portis played phenomenal in Game 7 for them. He was huge for him. Guy we haven't talked about yet. That was unexpected. But I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I think, if you're true to your heart, you're a GM in the NBA, and we're having a start over the whole NBA league. Every player, we're having a draft. You have the number 1 pick, and you can pick whoever you want. You're taking Giannis. You're taking Giannis over every other player in the league.
I mean, here's
I'm not. I don't even. Giannis would be like 4 or 5 for me, maybe. He's not 1. He's not even
4
2.
or 5.
Yeah. No
Wow.
disrespect. It means I think he's really, 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 really good.
4 or 5. Wow. Here's the thing. He's unguardable, really. I mean, teams have tried, right? So the Miami Heat have, when they lost to the Miami Heat, they put up a wall. They're like, we're not letting him in. They forced him to hurt him with jump shot, right? That's what ended up knocking the Bucks out last season from the NBA Finals, or from the NBA playoffs. And teams were starting to do that this year. Even the Suns were like, and the Suns are just small, but at the same time, it's like they tried to put up that wall. And they tried. They couldn't do it.
He took 19 shots in the paint. They put up a wall, and he still got 19 shots in the paint?
That's what I'm talking about. Phoenix.
I don't think they try very well.
Phoenix. Well, that's a coaching thing, and that's a player execution thing. And if you can't do those things and execute on a high level, guess what? He's gonna find those holes, and he's gonna get to the basket, and you're gonna get what you got last night. Out rebounded. You're gonna get, just pounded in the paint. That's just how it is. But you gotta, I don't know if you're taking intangibles into the consideration here. Where, intangibles, a guy that's gonna stick with you for a little bit, right? A guy that's not gonna dip out.
That has nothing to do with.
Are we just talking
the best player in the NBA?
Pure basketball talent, just pure what you can do from a skill standpoint.
Player. There's no intangibles there. It's who's the best player in the NBA. Who will win better than any other player in the NBA for you?
A guy that could put up 50 points in a closeout game in the NBA Finals without being able to shoot. That's still pretty good. That's still pretty good.
Career high in the playoffs. But you don't disagree that he was not the best player in that Brooklyn series. He wasn't.
Kevin Durant is definitely in that conversation for best in the world, obviously. Kevin Durant, he has the length.
I'm asking that. I'm asking who was the better player in that series.
I don't know, man. I feel like in that series, yeah. If you were to take that in retrospect now and like,
if you would have traded those two guys, if Durant was on the Bucks and Giannis was on the Nets, would that have gone to a Game 7 or an overtime?
Say that again. Let me process that.
Just trade those two guys. You start that series, and Giannis is on the Nets, and Durant is on the Bucks.
Okay.
How does that series play out, in your opinion?
Bucks.
With the same injuries that occurred, the same situation outside of those two players switched.
And you have the Bucks. The Bucks end up getting KD, and the
Nets have
Giannis with Harden and Kyrie, but they're hurt, right?
Yeah, the same exact situation. You're only everything injury-wise and situation-wise is the same. You're just trading Giannis and KD. What happens in that series?
I think the Bucks have a better team at that point.
Yeah, the Bucks probably winning like not less than 5 or 6.
But also, I mean, you got the role players in Milwaukee a little bit better than I feel like some of the other.
For sure.
I mean,
for sure. But I'm saying the Bucks went to 7 with Giannis versus KD. But I'm saying if they traded positions, they wouldn't have gone that long. It wouldn't have gone that long.
Maybe.
And that's my point. That's my point.
I don't know, man. I think he's on his way, if not there, to being. I mean, I want to see how he carries this over to next season, because next season, if he's able to continue this dominance and he's like, I mean, taking over games by himself, like he's the only guy on the court and no one still can find an answer for you. That's a pretty that's an asset. That's one of the best players in the league, in my opinion. If you, no matter what you do, you can't stop whatever the other person's doing. It's impossible because there's no answers. His length, his size, what he can do defensively, offensively. I mean, he's got a lot to his game that
is very hard to guard. I just would prefer to give the nod to the best player in the game as someone more skilled than him.
Diacola in chat, how do the Nuggets match up against the Bucks instead of the Suns? See, I feel like the Nuggets. I'm torn.
We
on
have
that.
I just said he wasn't the best player in the league, but we have no answer for Giannis.
No.
No one.
Nobody. But
no one.
I will say, and let me take a look at this. Let me see if I can find it.
They wouldn't have. Would they put Giannis on Joker?
Probably.
I think they probably would. Maybe we could get him into foul trouble. I don't know.
There's one matchup that I really like, and that's, I want to say us playing in Milwaukee. For some reason, we play well there. That's one of my bets every single year that I'm just like, yeah, I would make that bet that we would cover that spread, and win that game, just based off of for some reason we have their number.
Overall, I don't think we match up that well. I think Holiday's a bad matchup for Murray. Holiday's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. I think he would give Murray fits, unfortunately. And then you're looking at Porter. Porter can get off his shot because he's 6'10" athletic against anybody, but he's still too inconsistent. Maybe we'll see that consistency grow, and maybe, but he's a liability in my mind still on defense. So I don't know. I don't like that matchup. When I look at the players that would be guarding different players, I don't like that matchup at all.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Dating back to 2018, 2019, Bucks won 2 straight against the Nuggets in 2018-19. In 2019-20, Nuggets won 2 straight, and then they split the series this year. 1 win. The Bucks beat us 125-112 at Denver, and we beat them in Milwaukee, as mentioned, 97-128. It was a blowout, and that's just how that ended up. So I don't know, for some reason I feel like we definitely are at a disadvantage in that matchup, but we would still be able to, I mean, lifetime all-time record, the Nuggets have 62 wins versus the Milwaukee Bucks 37 wins. So historical records look good.
I forgot one stat that I'm looking at right now as far as arguing Giannis is the best player in the league.
Okay, go for it.
I believe in the Eastern Conference Finals, he got hurt after playing 24 minutes in Game 4, a game they lost by 22 and were down when he left. So they were likely to lose that game regardless. So that would have been a 2-2 series, essentially, with Giannis in the lineup. Pretty sure Milwaukee went on without Giannis to take that series down. And that's the best. To win the Eastern Conference without the best player in the NBA on your team after being tied 2-2 with the best player in the NBA on your team?
He's a different man. He's a different guy now. He's a different guy.
He's a different guy. That was 6 games he's played since then. He's not a different guy. He played really well in those 6 games.
I'm telling you,
man.
man.
Of those 6 games, he's not a different guy.
He's a different
guy. He's a 2-time MVP. Not a different guy.
He's a different guy. He turned it on these last 4 games into beast mode. And I'm not gonna put it past him to get better and better. He's not like our boy Ben Simmons, who's just gonna take the summer off and end up just hanging out at the beach with all the Kardashians. He's gonna work better, and I'm telling you, he's gonna come back strong. I'm telling you.
He played great in a matchup that was really, really good for him. But at the same time, you can't take away the fact that they won a couple games without him in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Hey, I mean, honestly, I think he's on his way. I think he's on his way.
You think he's already there? You said he's already there. He's the best player in the league.
I mean,
but his team won 2 games without him in a 2-2 series tie to get to the NBA Finals.
I would hope that my player on my team to close out an NBA Finals can put up 50. Like the guy that you want to put up 50 will do it.
Just such a small. You're just taking such a small piece.
He can do it though. He's proved it. And he
did it once.
He did it once. And
what about all the years they lost in the playoffs? Did he put up 50 in each of those game?
You're talking about a different guy, different seasons, man.
He won MVP 2 of those seasons.
You also had different competition in some of those seasons as well. He wasn't the best player in the league 2 years ago or 3 years ago. He won MVP. He won MVP, but that doesn't mean he's the best.
3 years ago.
But just because you win MVP doesn't mean you're the best in the league. LeBron James has been the best in the league for some of those, right? I mean, just because, it's the performance, right? You got injuries that happen. You have things that happen to other players. We have excuses for Nikola Jokic winning MVP all day, every day for things that happen to other players that should win MVP. That doesn't mean it's he's the best player in the league based off of the voting and everything else. That's a different story. Just how it is. Just saying.
What has changed in Giannis's game from 2 years ago when he won MVP? What's he better at now than he wasn't good at?
He's better at putting a team on his back than he was back then. He's better at taking over a game when he needs to, and he's recognized that, all right, it's a team game.
Say that a young guy, Kyrie Irving was healthy.
A young guy who's
You'd be questioning him beyond belief.
A young guy who's team-oriented.
If Kyrie Irving was healthy in that series, they probably would have lost in 5 or 6 games, and you'd be like, Giannis can't carry a team to a title because he's continually had good regular seasons, and they've done nothing in the postseason. But instead, injuries contributed to them making the finals against a team that also had injuries that contributed to them making the finals, and they beat that team.
You play who's in front of you.
I'm just saying, nothing's changed. his skill level and his ability and the things that he does is the exact same as when he was MVP 2 and 3 years ago.
Try game planning for him each and every game. Figure out a way to stop the guy like that. You can't. You can't.
There's a lot of guys you can say that about.
Well,
right?
Just wait till he comes.
How do you stop Kevin Durant?
Just wait till he comes back with that jump shot.
LeBron James. He's not going to come back with a jump shot.
He's going to come back with a jump shot. I'm telling you. Mark my words.
Saying Ben Simmons is going to come back with a jump shot.
We're over time here, guys. Thank you for listening to us argue back and forth. We love each and every one of you for hanging around a little bit over time. We're, once we get into some fun debates, it's a lot of fun to to let things go a little bit longer. So appreciate you guys hanging around a little bit. Love all of you guys. We will be back. So we have our Sunday show coming up where we're going to be diving into a ton of sports topics. Now, Scotty, we have some big things coming up. We're going to be prepping over the next week for the NBA draft, which is coming up next week. So we're going to have a big special on that. We still have to go through our big special on everything there is to do about the Olympics. Dark Sage popping back in. I'm also curious to see who you guys think is the biggest threat in the United States over basketball. I live in Chile, but noticed that America has looked like the America of past years in the Olympics this time around. Yeah, and yes, Chile is only good in soccer mostly, but I'm passionate about all kinds of sports. Love it, man. Love it. Glad that you're here. Again, Dark Sage, hit that follow button. We want to see you back here each and every time we're going live, and we would love to have you back because if you love talking sports, this is the spot for you. So, what do you think is the biggest threat to the United States? Basketball. Man, we're going international with this. We got Dark Sage coming out of Chile. Yeah, I love it. Nice. There we go. Dark Sage, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Love to have you part of the Action Lab. It means a lot.
I mean, to me, the team has to be, and Spain has usually been that answer, right? Spain has always been the team that's kind of been close, been able to compete. I'm gonna go Australia here. Australia's got some guys that certainly some shooters that
Australia
playing
for sure
in the international game. Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, Dellavedova, who I know people are like laugh at, but like NBA talent, played really well at times. Point guard and Dante Exum, Aaron Baines in the post. Like they have NBA skilled guys. They have the ability to give the U.S. team fits. Like, I just think they've had a lot of accomplishment in the international stage without winning an actual international tournament. They finished fourth a couple times in like the World Championships and this and that. But to me, in this Olympics, I look at Australia as the team that will give the U.S. the most problems. Obviously, the U.S. has 3 guys heading out right now that just played in the finals with Middleton, Holiday, I believe, and Booker.
Yep.
Which has to be an awkward flight for Booker, right? Like,
that's got to be a weird flight.
Hopefully that plane's big enough for like they can just like that's got to be awkward for him to just see them basking in their victory, and he's just on the plane being like, "Cool guys, I'm gonna just put him in headphones and don't look at me, don't talk to me." But yeah, I would venture to say Australia is going to be the biggest problem, but appreciate the question.
Yeah, and Dark Sage in the chat. I actually, and actually for the record, I do not cheer for Chilean soccer. I was born in Canada, but I also not a Canadian fan in soccer.
So what, like, do you have an international team just out of
curiosity? What's your Dark Sage? What's your international team like that you follow that you're soccer. Religiously, all about when it comes to World Cup, Olympic soccer? What country are you affiliated with the most then, as far as your fandom? Who do you love? Because I mean, you kind of have all over the place between Canada, Chile.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's a lot of people in the world that were born in Canada and then end up in Chile, right? I mean, like, I don't know. That's an interesting combination. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Those are 2 very, very distinct and different cultures that you got to be a part of. So that's neat.
So
that's
officially, now that Dark Sage followed, we actually have a follower in South America, in Europe. We don't have a Canadian follower yet, I don't think.
Can he be both?
Maybe you could. Dark Sage, you qualify for both if that's cool. We'll take you. We're going international with this show, Scotty. We're going big. We're not stopping at United States. We're going international. So,
and that's why I said Australia is the biggest competition. Hopefully, someone from Australia is watching this and is about to follow.
I hope that's the case. I mean, we got a lot of big streamers.
Get it, mate.
Yay, there you go. But yeah, Dark Sage, appreciate you popping in. What time is it out there, by the way? I don't even know what. Are they in the same? I think they're in similar time zone.
They're not. Yeah, they're not that different than us.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But no, appreciate all the love, Dark Sage. And again, Scotty, when does the Olympics? It'll be at the opening ceremonies. When this weekend, right?
No, I think it's tomorrow.
Is that when the?
Hold on. I believe it is. Sorry, Friday. It's Friday, not tomorrow. Friday.
Opening ceremonies. So
opening ceremony. Obviously, there's some sports that have already started and events that have already started, but it'll be fun. Like, you know, it's always fun to watch the Olympics because you watch some things that, like, I'm fascinated. I get fascinated with like water polo. And,
ooh, that's
like,
a tough one. I would never be able to do that.
Yeah, it looks really easy, and you're like, why do these guys look like they're having such a hard time out there? And then you try it once, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is impossible.
When I can't touch the ground in a sport that's in the water, I have issues.
Yeah.
I can't stay afloat and actually do something athletic at the same time.
But other sports, obviously swimming, super fun to watch. Beach volleyball, gymnastics, you know, obviously the sprinting competitions, things like that. It's things that maybe you don't pay attention to and follow all the time, but every 4 years you get into it and you rep for your country and your nation, and you're excited to watch these things, and they're entertaining. So obviously you have the big sports like basketball and things like that, but part of me kind of enjoys even more than those sports, like some of those ones that don't always get the notoriety except for every 4 years when the Olympics start, and watching those, because they're just things you don't necessarily pay attention to, but there's some crazy athleticism and athletes on display, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be great. Hopefully the athletes can get good rest on these cardboard beds that they have out there, or lack thereof rest, based off of all those stories coming out. Obviously, it's
not great.
No. Yeah, eco-friendly beds built out of cardboard. But then there was some other athletes saying they were for other reasons, but who knows? I think they're eco-friendly, and it just blew up a little bit. But yeah, no, it's.
I like to watch the high dive, like the diving, just to see like someone really mess up in that. Ooh. That's fun to watch. Someone that just cannonballs it by mistake.
You know,
Diacola in the chat, no fans, going to be way difficult for the athletes. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird because I feel like everywhere in the world is in a different spot with this whole pandemic and COVID. Obviously, we're starting to go a little bit backwards in America, but still we're kind of still business as usual. So to see an Olympic Games that there's no fans, nothing going on, the passion's not there, that's going to be disappointing for sure. Like, I saw like the people that win the medals usually get it placed obviously over their head and whatnot. That's not going to happen this year. They're going to get basically served this like tray, and then they have to pick it up and put it over their heads to avoid the contact with someone else in some capacity. Pretty silly from my vantage point, but it's all good.
Dark Sage, international sports, it depends on what the sport is. In soccer, I have always been a fan of Serbia. Part of my family is Serbian. Man, you have an international just
all over the place.
So now we have
I like it.
We have a subscriber from with Chile, Serbia, and Canada. That's international. We're all over the place. We'll take you from Serbia as well. By the way, Serbia, our boy Nikola Jokic, you a big fan of him? Hope you are. And yes, we are not a powerhouse except in tennis. Yep. Absolutely. No, tennis is another one. You know which one I really like too? have you ever seen the kayaking on those like little rivers they build? Those kayaking events in the Olympics, I think are a lot of fun to watch. Like the single kayak where they just like have to hit each gate. I think that's one of the more fun ones to watch for me. I eat that up. I love it. Diacol in chat, there was a discussion about canceling altogether today due to COVID. I feel like the Olympics can't be canceled at this point. I feel like the Olympics
next year there's literally going to be the Winter Olympics, so you can't have them in the same year, right? Like that can't happen. They're just gonna go through with it, like it or not. Do it, get it over. I hate to say get it over with, because hopefully it'll still be entertaining and fun to watch. Even though some of the excitement without fans and all of this hangs over it, but I don't know. I don't think they can delay it another year at this point. Everyone's out there, just everything's scheduled, everything's set up. Make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. The Olympics, there's too much money to be lost by the Olympic Committee to not have this. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's where we're at with this. But Olympics, I have a feeling are going to be a lot of fun. Again, this has been like how we've been going about a lot of sports that we don't typically get to cover here, or that maybe I don't watch or you don't watch, that we get to dive into, and it's going to make it that much more fun. The more we talk about it, the more we have a vested interest in some of the athletes and some of the things, the sports that are happening. So I'm getting more and more excited as it gets closer, and we can't wait to share all of the insights, all the updates, all the medals that all these teams are winning, and do that with you guys. Dark Sage, in all sports. In baseball, I cheer for Cuba. In soccer, Serbia. In hockey, Canada. Canada's a good one for hockey. Can't really go wrong with that. That's for sure.
Cuba's not bad for baseball.
Cuba,
pretty talented. Pretty talented squad there. So.
And I like underdog teams in most international sports, except for hockey. Now, do you like
Cuba's not where Dominican is for sure, but they got some pieces.
Yeah. And do you have any American sports teams that you follow, Dark Sage? Let us know. But man, you haven't, just international all over the place. I love it. But that's
appreciate the underdog.
Yeah, always love a good underdog. Can't always go against a good underdog. But again, thank you guys so much for being a part of the stream. Thank you, Dark Sage, for hitting that follow button. It means a lot. If you're here and you enjoy the show, hit that follow button like Dark Sage did. Appreciate all the love. We are back here in the lab on Sunday, so mark your calendars, hit those notifications on your phone or your tablet or your computer so that you know exactly when we're going live. We have so much to cover on Sunday, so we will get you all situated with that and get you through the last part of your weekend. We can't wait, and we're excited to see each and every one of you back here. Thank you, Dark Sage, Diacola, Patrick, all you guys across all of our different platforms who have been watching us throughout the course of the evening. Means a lot, and we can't wait for Sunday. So, I will say I do try to cheer for Team USA in soccer, but they are a joke on the international stage. That's changing.
We're building.
It's going to change.
Dark Sage. We talked about this, and we got some young talent like we've never had before. We're building. We'll be there. We're not a real player yet, but maybe sometime soon.
And then
a Royals fan.
Yeah. Okay.
Dark Sage. I was born in Kansas City. Rockies are my number one, but Royals are kind of my number two in baseball. So yeah, hey, they won a World Series not too long ago. So,
yeah, there you go.
Sadly, as a Royals fan, they had some success mixed in with a lot of failure, to be honest. But they had a couple year run that was pretty fun to watch there, and yeah, I was born in KC, so I can say go Royals a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a backup team. Anytime you could have a nice backup team, there's nothing wrong with that. And American baseball. There's nothing wrong with Kansas City. I feel like it's one of the Heartland's teams. That's the first time you'll ever hear KC and Heartland team in the same sentence.
Super underrated city.
I don't even know what I just said. Anyways, all right, we'll see you guys. We're extending this out because we love you guys. We love chatting with you guys. So we will always stay on and chat with you guys some more. But we got to call it a night. We have day jobs we have to get to sometimes, right, Scotty? Unfortunately, this isn't our day job yet. But the more followers we get,
children.
Hey, kids, day jobs, they catch up with you.
That's true. If we get a bunch of followers, we'll never work again. We'll just do this.
Yeah, this is where we're at. Mayday! All right, now we have to stay on for it.
Oh my goodness!
We have a Mayday sighting. Do we just start the stream over? Should we start the stream over?
Did he do this on purpose? The second we're about to sign off, he's like, "Hello."
He does this to us quite a bit, and I'm disappointed in you, Mayday.
I was fully committed to using the restroom. I was ready. We were signing off. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom in a second. And now Mayday just pops in with hello.
See,
I was worried that Mayday, something happened to him.
We've been concerned about you, Mayday. We've been like, where is he at? I mean, Diacola in the chat misses you. Like, everyone missed you, Mayday. Like, no excuses. We need you here in the lab with us. We have to have you back. And he hit you with...
you would, Mayday, you would be a DeChambeau guy. You totally would be. So have you been watching when we've been talking about that? Because you've been pretty silent. But I'm pretty sure he performs better than DeChambeau in every tournament. Just saying. Just saying. But I appreciate you just throwing it out there like that.
How are we ramping up our stream right at the end? What is going on right now? We have everyone popping in the stream, having a good time now. Maybe we should just start streaming at 10 p.m.
Mayday. It's past midnight for you.
Yeah,
that's probably why he's delirious when he said Brooke sucks. That's probably what happened.
I feel like, Mayday, you are
so tired.
You owe us an explanation of why you've been gone. Dark Sage also, family Chilean Canadian, mother side. Man, yeah, love it. Maybe. Love it.
That seems like, that's actually exciting because that seems like two very, very different places. No, I've been watching the Rockies. I can't tell what is that. I can't
little
see.
emote.
It's too small. Yeah, what is that? It's too small. I can't tell what it is.
It's just
that just a face of a guy that's full of shit?
Yeah, probably.
And watching the Rockies.
Just being snarky over here.
Still mad about the 76ers losing, I feel like. He hasn't let that go yet.
Maybe that's why he's been AWOL. Like he was here the night they lost, and he vented about it. And then after that, gone.
Ghosted. But hey, he has a Phillies team to cheer for that's won 47 and lost 47, so that's super exciting.
Yep, there you go. 500. Can't get more mediocre than that. That's pretty.
To be fair, they're only 3.5 out.
It's good though. Yeah, they're still in the race.
In the East. They're in the right division to compete. So maybe that's why he's back. He's like, we got a chance in the NL East.
100%.
They lost 2 straight. Mayday, just honestly, good to know that you're alive.
We're just glad you're still out there. We missed you. Mayday, we've had a few more followers come in. We have Dark Sage joining us. Deb missed you. Everybody missed you. We get a lot of people that ask about you in the chat, by the way. Okay. And Eagles for now. Okay, you must be delirious. Are you at a party or something? Just like drunk tweeting. I don't know.
Dark Sage. Best part is neither Chile and Serbia is in the Olympics, so I can just cheer for whoever. Yeah, the pressure's off at that point, so you can just enjoy the games itself and not have to worry about who might my team have to face and how's my team doing. So that's a nice Nice thing. Mayday, Eagles for Super Bowl. I don't even know how to respond to that. I was to tell you about the trade deadline. Sorry, I was gone. What trade deadline?
Yeah. What?
But I was serious about the bathroom thing, so I'll be right back.
All right.
We're apparently still going here.
Yeah. We're go hit it up, and screw Brazil and soccer. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't ever hate Brazil going down. I've never been like a Brazil guy. A lot of people are like Brazil, like, you know, they have this, you know, huge following, and I don't know. It's just never been my cup of tea. Yeah, I've never like really loved Brazil either, but I mean, I don't know. I've always been a Spain guy as my secondary. Obviously, USA is my number one, but always been more on the Spain train. And then it was fun to celebrate Italy the other day. I have some Italian roots as well, so can't hate on that either. Mayday, I can't wait to hear this story. You gonna throw the story in the chat? Let us know what the story is. I'm like, you have me on the edge of my seat right now. I mean, I guess you could type it up. You missed it. Yeah, the women's team are choking. I mean, here's the thing. They're still going to be good. I wouldn't worry too much about our women's team. But, yeah, they did kind of choke away this first game. We talked about this earlier on the stream, Mayday, about how they didn't really come out very strong. They kind of choked this game away for sure. But I will say they're still this is a wake-up call for them. And I guarantee they're going to be playing better. Story leaves from Colorado.
Yeah, I don't think that's it's not too bold. It's either gonna, well, I don't have any inside info, but it'll either happen this season or after this season.
You know what's weird?
Is what everyone believes.
I've seen more and more reports recently that there's a chance we might hold on to him.
Hold on to him and not trade him this season.
Yes.
Yeah. Our GM came out and said, like, because we can get a comp pick. We can get an end of first round comp pick, essentially, if we keep him and then lose him in the offseason. So you have to weigh whether that potential player is better than anything else you get in return at the trade deadline. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, don't know if Story's leaving, but all signs point to him not being a Rocky right now in 2022, based off of what you read and what you see.
Oh yeah, he gone. He's for sure gone. It's just a matter of when he's gone, right?
Yep.
It'll happen either during the trade deadline or next year, just at some point. So it'll happen. Not too, yeah, not super big hot take there. But was that your story? Was that the story?
That's the story to tell about the trade deadline.
That sucks for Story being in an organization that is
Rocky. Wow. All right. Okay. we can't all be. I know the Phillies won a few, but it hasn't been exactly a prime place recently. Mayday. So back up. It's like his pain. He wants other people to feel, so he's gonna throw shade towards their teams.
I just love how he comes in hot. Like the first thing he said, he's MIA for however long he is, and the first thing he throws out there is shade. I'll give it to you, Mayday. Dad jokes for days. It's interesting. Your dad jokes are...
Is your dad feeding you those jokes then? Why do you have so many dad jokes?
By the way, I appreciate a good dad joke, and I haven't heard any great ones recently, but we should have a dad joke off soon.
You don't mean him talking about all the puns with Story and Rocky. That's not it. That didn't do it for you.
No, it didn't do it for me. I need better dad jokes than that. I appreciate the themes matching up with the show, with the sports themes. You get style points for that. But I want some legit dad jokes. I want some really good ones.
Do you think his Twitch name is Mayday because it's in reference to all the Philadelphia sports teams?
Could be.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Mayday. Hope you watch that NBA Finals. You know what a joke is? The Chiefs. Oh no.
No, stop it, Mayday. You're embarrassing yourself. In the midst of 10 minutes, you talked about the Eagles making the Super Bowl,
Brooks,
and the Chiefs being a joke,
and Brooks sucking.
Just stop it. Just stop it. I appreciate your candor, but you're embarrassing yourself out here. You're embarrassing yourself.
Mayday, you gonna be on Sunday's show? I hope so, because this was it was fun to get you back in here for a little bit, but we need you back for the whole show. Not just the last 10 minutes. You're lucky we're staying on for you.
And we're going to do an NBA draft show next week.
Yeah. We're doing an NBA draft show for you. So make sure that you're there. Tell all your friends. Tell everybody. Get them in here. Get them in the lab. We need more people to chime in. Maybe. No.
Maybe.
Come on, man.
Does he want us to beg? Because I'm not doing that.
We're not doing it. We're not going that low here on the Action Lab. We go to low extents most of the time. We really hit some low points. We don't go that low.
His hot takes are the hottest of takes, though.
True.
And what I mean by that is they are interesting. They are interesting.
But yeah, we better see you here. First of all, on Sunday and next Wednesday, and even for the draft special we have coming up. Ryan Ellis is a good piece for the Fly Guys. Okay.
He's a hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a defenseman. Just traded over from the Preds. He's a nice piece. They're gonna need a lot more than that based off of their performance last year. When I hyped them in the preseason to be a playoff team and maybe win that division, and then they disappointed me quite a bit. But Ryan Ellis is nice. I don't think he's like a monumental game changer for him, but it's a nice piece to help your defensive ability about.
Tarasenko
next.
Yeah.
Maybe. I haven't read about that.
Yeah. I need to dive into that a little bit more.
Isn't he broken? I think he might be broken.
He might be.
I think Tarasenko's injured, but sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, for real this time, we're definitely needed to sign off here. So
signing off.
But we appreciate the overtime. Again, thank you, Mayday, for coming back in hot, just straight out, and letting us know that you're alive. We appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Dark Sage, Mayday, Deb, Patrick, everyone in the chat who has contributed throughout the course of the show, as mentioned earlier. Mayday, good night. Rest easy.
Dark Sage, good night.
Dark Sage, Deb, everybody, Patrick, everybody. Have a great night.